I don't know how to start this video, so let's just get on a plane. Easier said than done, that turned out to be, with a 6-hour delay at the airport. Thanks EasyJet, it was about as easy as scaling Everest with nothing but a copy of Dino Crisis and a wet paper towel. Eventually though, I made it to the exotic, far-off shores of England. In jolly old England though, I did find 2 exotic creatures in 2 of my best friends, famed American bird whisperer Elle and ambassador for Australian Scottish international relations, Trent. We took ourselves from the airport to Nottingham, the home of all things hobby related. We set up shop in Ramshackle Games, hosted by the amazing Curtis. Not only was this a trip to see my friends, but I had a job to do, and that job was to learn as much as I possibly could about making minis in 12 days. It was so cool to see how the workshop was run and how they produced so many cool models, including Trent's very awesome minis that I may or may not have left the premises with a full set of. I did eventually get some work done though and started sculpting my first model of the trip.
That was recording, so if you could just like rip all that off and just...
It was nice to just work around a table with other people, each on our own separate projects, just feeling the creative energy in the air and discussing the important things in life.
And if you could do like the little promo where you have to tell people how they can vote for you, what the SMS number is.
Call 999. Love that. I was inspired by how you feel when you see yourself in the mirror at the hairdresser's, so decided to make a disgusting, squirmy, shambling pile of worms with a beaky little bird head. And once he was about as gross and weird as I was after, he was ready to get some sprues. At this point I should mention that somewhere down the line I took to calling him Gary, and now he just feels like a Gary to me. Apologies to any and all Garys watching, except Barlow, never Barlow. I made a similarly wormy base for the sprue that can be used as some terrain pieces or scatter bits so there's no wastage. I had to give poor Gary the chop since his head was just at too jaunty of an angle to be cast all in one piece. In order to have the resin flow into the mould properly, I had to stick him on pretty skew with, leant back like a dad asleep at Christmas dinner. I did the same for Gary's head, taking care to make sure the connections would let all the air out and all the resin in. And with that, Gary was in place, having been mace windowed for the greater good. Sorry Gaza. I made a mould box with some foam core, somehow managed to get the backwards letters the right way round but still do it upside down, and sealed Gary inside.
Alright, show me what you made. Wow. First one?
Yeah. So I gave my camera to full-time professional YouTuber Trent.
I don't even know if I have audio right now.
And took Gary to the mould room.
Lex, you're up, bud. You ready?
Yeah. Curtis taught me his process for making moulds for miniatures. Although I've made moulds in the past, I used a different kind of silicone and generally moulded bigger, less intricate things. Plus, I've never used pressure pots or vacuum chambers. I usually just give it a bash and hope it comes out okay. This time though, I measured out the correct amounts, tinted the silicone and mixed it up ready to pour into the mould box waiting in the vacuum chamber. We sealed it up and got it sucking out the air to get rid of the bubbles in the silicone. And wow, this thing sucks harder than your...
Are you excited?
Yeah, bud. Part of this process is to watch for the silicone to bubble up and then it falls back down when it's ready. I apparently took this opportunity to stare into the abyss of the vacuum chamber as if I'm about to hunt the silicone around the hotel I'm caretaking for the winter. After burning my retinas into the silicone and learning its innermost secrets, it was done and ready to fill most of the way up before vacuuming again, which meant even more intense staring from me. Not sure exactly what I thought would happen if I looked away for even a second. Maybe the silicone would get me like one of those angels from Doctor Who. But hey, look at me go, just still f***ing staring. They did manage to pull me away for a brief meander into the bewitching world of 90s raving, which you can tell I was definitely a part of as a small child from the absolute shapes that I'm cutting. I do love making molds, and learning about Curtis's process really got me itching to make some more. So, subscribe, I guess. Maybe we'll do that soon. This silicone takes about 8 hours to cure, so after topping up the mold, Gary was safely tucked in for a good night's rest. In the meantime, we spent our evening accidentally getting Trent locked out of the house for the night and having to find a new way to deliver his dinner.
Are you ready for chicken? Yeah! Enjoy the chicken.
Uber Eats your bloody heart out.
Today's the day, bud.
The next morning, after a lovely, comfy night's sleep in our beds, sorry Trent, we were back in the studio. We sought to release Gary from his imprisonment and cut the mold open. This is a slightly tricky process, knowing exactly where to cut to reduce the mold lines on the finished cast and how much needs to be cut to safely get the model out. But with some patience, I did manage to make some progress. The hardest part was trying to hold the mold open enough to get at the tiny parts you need to cut through. So I got some help from Trent to spread open the mold whilst I very carefully sliced through the silicone.
This is how I lose a finger.
I'm not known for making things particularly easy for myself, and it turns out Gary wasn't quite beginner friendly to get out of the mold. But finally, between us, we got him free and we had a mold ready to cast. To make a resin cast, well, you need resin. I measured out the correct amounts and got to mixing. This stuff kicks fast, much faster than the stuff I'm used to, so I had to mix quickly and get it into the mold, making sure it got right to the bottom. In order to eliminate bubbles, we're going to have to get this thing under more pressure than your gran feels when trying to traverse the sign-up captcha for hunkyyoungstuds.com. So we got it in the pressure pot and first vacuumed, then pressurised for the best results. And so we left it to cure under the dulcet tones of the air compressor. After some very genuine, off-the-cuff reviews...
Lex was the best.
Oh yeah, Lex is the best.
Very good.
Just a short time later, it was time to release the pressure. Some tandem unscrewing and we got the mould out of the pot. Curtis explained that the first casting sometimes needs some extra cutting to perfect the removal process.
Are you excited?
Pretty excited, kind of nervous.
It'll be great.
Yeah. We cut a bit more and wiggled him around, but alas, Gary II came out without his head, which isn't so bad considering I'd already cut it off his predecessor the day before. With a few more slices though, we got his head back and could assess the cast.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really, really good. No bubbles.
No. With that, the mould was ready to go again, so Curtis took it away to do some more casts, and the next one was a winner. Gary III came out pretty perfect. A really cool moment for me, having a resin cast of my actual own mini that I made. A total dream come true. Over the next few days, Elle and I kept casting more models, and if you want to see how hers came out, I'll link her channel in the description. She's just amazing.
That's my two favorite gamers.
Gamers? What are we playing? RuneScape?
Wow.
Is it a Minecraft night?
And whilst we're looking in the description for links, I have to find somewhere in this packed video to say, I've got a Patreon. Not going to hammer on about it, you know the score, it's down there if you want to look. But enough of that shite, let's get on with the minis. We were definitely starting to get a bit more confident in the process. Is that good?
Yeah.
And those honest, unbiased reviews were definitely helping.
She's the best.
And even the deafeningly loud pump started to feel like music to my ears. But now with my newfound knowledge, I wanted to improve. Not too long before this trip, I had drawn some playing cards for a deck Trent was putting together with Big Boy Game Time. I really liked how the Ace of Spades came out, so I decided to use the card I'd drawn as loose inspiration for my next model. Fun Lex fact of the day, I have a bit of a playing card obsession. I don't really know why, I always have done, I just love them. So it was pretty inevitable that I'd want to make some playing card themed minis. Now that I had the experience of making the mould and seeing how it came out, I wanted to focus even more on making something with the casting process in mind. So I tried to keep the model on one plane so he could be cut out of the mould easily. I decided on him having a staff, as casters are the coolest, don't you know? And despite my embracing of model principles and Curtis's repeated requests for chunky, thick with 5 Cs models, I gotta admit, I live for a spindly little guy. I make a lot of spindly little guys. I draw a lot of spindly little guys. What can I say? I just love the spindle. Thin and creepy, that's how I do it. So I compromised my devotion to the lanky and thickened his arms a bit from the drawing. I kept the legs quite squared off and angular for some contrast, and a nod to him being a flat card. But I couldn't resist for long and kept his spindly little fingers. As long as they're sculpted onto something like the sleeve, they'll cast just fine. Once he was finished, he had to wait though, because it was time for some socialising. Trent, Curtis and Pablo of the Still Tower had organised Mates and Minis, a day of kitbashing, playing and hanging out with fellow mini enthusiasts. The kitbashing table was a real hit, and it was so much fun to see everyone making cool stuff, sharing models with each other, and I even managed to give out a few Garys of my own. Curtis was in his element running around organising and making sure everyone had a good time, and Pablo ran a competition for the kitbashes. One of the highlights of the day was watching a giant game of tonks. Monk made them to surprise Ben, and as someone who preaches scale is only a suggestion, I absolutely approve. I met some really cool people, and it was nice to put some faces to usernames of people I'd followed for a while. Apologies to anyone I didn't get to speak to on the day. I am a quivering bag of social anxiety, and introducing myself to strangers is my own personal level of hell. Probably around circle 4, I'd say, somewhere between the circle of that juice that comes out of coleslaw and the circle of endlessly listening to that bloody bird say, "Trouble with the trolley, eh?" from Spyro Ripto's Rage. Rage is f***ing right, by the way, that bird's a
Trouble with the trolley, eh? Eh? Eh?
After the event though, it was back to work. And because Trent clearly hadn't done enough for us already, here he is casting our models for us while we jeer at him from behind the camera.
Oh, he's so cool!
And after some cure time, we had the Spademancer. Granted, it's no Gary, but I like it. And now for the worst part of the video. The part where I had to leave my friends and go home. I had the best time in Nottingham and I was pretty sad to leave. Back to the land of Iron Brew and saying how when we actually mean why. And luckily, I still felt inspired to keep working with everything I'd learned. I brought back some of the casts of my models and for once ever actually painted a mini when I got it home and not just left it in my very grey pile of shame. I wanted to keep the painting fairly simple as, spoiler alert, these will be used for the painted photos on the shop listing. I'm so thrilled Curtis offered to put my minis up for sale on the Ramshackle store, and if you'd like to get your own, you can. I'll put the link in the description if you fancy a look. Okay, so I like to keep things to the funnies on this channel, but here's the gross, sappy part. I know, but I do want to say thank you to everyone who made my trip so amazing. I had the best time ever, everyone was so welcoming, and I could just go on about it all day. But I won't, I promise. All I'll say is thank you to Curtis, who hosted us, was such an amazing teacher and so generous with his time and space. Thank you to Pablo for also being a great teacher and so helpful and welcoming. To Monk for always seeming to have the right tool for the job within a split second. And of course to Elle and Trent. I can't describe how amazing they both are. They're just the best people ever and so bloody talented. Honestly, it makes me absolutely fucking sick how good they are at everything. It's not alright, it's not okay. The rest of us have to live up to that. But they are just the best. But now that we're finished with our disgusting feelings, we can move on and have a look at the final minis. Thank you so much for watching. I know this has been a little bit different than my usual videos, so thank you for sticking it out with me. A special thank you to my Patreons. I really couldn't do it without all of your support, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye!